He's back. Sandy's back. All right, folks, I got 6:01. Let's take our seats and get ready. So at 6:01, I call this meeting of Saginaw City Council to order. We have a guest speaker, a VIP guest speaker for the pledge, and Councilmember Copeland is going to introduce.
Yes, we have Caroline Drees here tonight. She is a member of Scouts BSA, and she's working on a citizenship in the Community Merit Badge, and she's going to lead us in the pledge, both pledges. So she's going to go up to the microphone.
Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you very much. Item number 2 is the invocation. For that, our friend, Pastor Michael Orr.
Let's pray together. Righteous and loving Heavenly God, we thank you so much for loving us and caring for us here at Saginaw, for all the areas around here, and the families and the people who are neighbors, who gather together for various reasons during the day. Father, we pray for their safety first and foremost, that you would watch over them, keep us from COVID, help those who are still recovering from the losses that they've faced and the difficulties they've faced of the past year and a half. Just give them comfort and strength, Father, for the days ahead. Be with those two who lost power and lost financial resources and went through so much. We know as a city, Father, that we endured a great deal, but so did so many others in Texas. We pray for healing and for recovery, for the many businesses that were affected, for the many families that were affected, for all the things, Father, that we faced. We pray that we would be stronger, support each other, help those who are in need, Father, and take care of our fellow citizens who need it. We thank you so much for the strength of this community. We thank you for having strong families and strong community support. We thank you for our first responders and all of those who work so hard to ensure our safety. For our schools and teachers and staff, be with them as they continue the school year, to be able to be productive, to be able to help inspire and encourage their children and keep a safe, healthy learning environment as they go forward. Be with our churches as we offer support and love for those who are in need and hurting during this time. Be with our leaders here, the City Council, and all of those who are appointed to take care of various needs for our community. Please bless each one of them and their families, their children. Be with them in their health. Keep them strong and help them to have wisdom in the decisions that they make. Be with all those decisions we make today and help us to use guidance and understanding that will help to benefit our city and to benefit our community and to bless and enrich all of its citizens. Father, we thank you so much for watching after us, for helping us in difficult times, for loving us and being there for us when we're all alone. Help us to look to you in difficult times and praise you in good times. We thank you for all of our blessings. We pray through all of our trials. We ask you all these things in your holy and righteous Son's name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend. Item number 3 is audience participation. If there's an item you would wish to speak on, please see the City Secretary. You are allowed to speak on any item that is posted. A couple of things, just housekeeping items. We have a Building Board of Appeals meeting immediately after this, so I want us to keep focused so we can be respectful of everyone's time. Additionally, we've just come out of an epic winter storm. We're cleaning up from that. But during that time, we had some folks in our city that really shined. There's some folks that we want to recognize. I don't have a whole list. We will at a later date, but police, fire, and our water department folks worked around the clock to keep us going and safe, and it was an amazing effort. We fared much better than a lot of other cities. We really did. Gabe, you want to add anything to that? And I know you had some stuff you wanted to mention.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to express our thanks and appreciation to city employees. difficult situation for everyone, residents and employees alike. They shined and came through. As you know, like many residents have experienced damage and property loss, the city's been the same boat with damage to city facilities. So we're still working through recovery, but it wouldn't be possible without police and fire and public works. We're very thankful for them.
You're here. So thanks very much. And we will have an official, some kind of celebration later on, at a future date, to honor those folks. Item number 4 is the consent agenda. A is action regarding minutes of February 19th. B is action regarding award for contract intersection improvements at Old Decatur Road and Bowes. Any questions on the consent agenda? Questions, comments? Yes, Cindy.
I'd like to pull item B, please.
Pull B?
B,
Okay.
Baker.
All right, so any questions, other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion on A.
I make a motion that we approve as reported.
A, okay. A second? Charlie, second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed? Let the record reflect we do have a quorum this evening. All right, item B. Pull that up real quick. B is action regarding award for contract of intersection improvement Old Decatur and Bowes. For that, Director of Public Works, Rick Trice.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a project that was identified at a workshop in February of last year, and of course, Kimley Horn proceeded with design. We advertised and received bids last Thursday, and G-Rock Construction was the low bid. We checked the bid tabs, and Kimley Horn's made a recommendation concurring with the award of contract to G-Rock Construction. If you have any specific questions, I'll try to answer those for you.
So I'm just kind of curious as to what are we doing with this particular task that we won't be covering in the bond election for that same intersection?
The limits on Bowes, as you go eastbound, the terminus of this project will be the beginning of the roundabout section on the Knowles Avenue, so it'll be seamless at that point. But this will stop short, and there will be a temporary transition
Okay.
to make that connection. So,
This intersection is not included in the bond. This
No, it's
intersection
not.
is not at all included in
No,
the bond.
it's
So this
not.
is totally separate from the bond.
I thought bond was going to have the roundabout at this intersection.
Not this one. This is Old
Not at
Decatur and
the
Bowes. This is not Knowles and
Oh,
Micro.
Old Decatur. Never mind. Okay. Sorry. Got my streets mixed up.
All right. Other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion on B.
I lost it. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve item 4B on the consent agenda.
Valerie, second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Excellent. Thank you all. All right, moving forward. Item number 5. Let me find it. Number 5, consideration and action regarding a recommendation from Planning and Zoning Commission for a request for a specific use permit to allow operation of a smoke shop on property located Saginaw Retail Center. For that, Director of Public Works, Rick Trice.
thank you, Mayor. This item was continued from your last meeting. Public hearing at that point. Continued the applicant late in the meeting on the initial council meeting. You recall some of the discussions during that meeting had to do with products that might be sold and how that might entice minors, whatever the advertisement is. I will say that the location is within the overlay district for Saginaw Boulevard. So there is a limitation for advertisement on the window on the signs. I think it's limited to 25%. So anyway, the applicant is here tonight to be able to answer any questions. Is Ahmad Dalla? Yes. Introduce yourself, your address.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. My name is Ahmad. I'm the applicant that wants to open the smoke shop. If you guys have any questions, I'm ready to ask.
Why don't you just quickly, just tell us about your business and what your business plan is for this location?
Okay.
Just give us an overview.
Okay. Last time we had a meeting, and I had some pictures, but now I didn't bring the pictures. I didn't know if that was the meeting or how. I didn't know the procedure, but
You can just tell us. That's okay.
yeah. What we do is we sell products like CBD, puffs, vapes, shirts, sometimes some kind of shirts, some kind of ashtrays, lighters, whatever, it needs, cigars. So that's what we really sell. And that we were talking last time about how the hiring process, about taking care of, whoever comes, and how we check, for underage people. How can we figure that out? We spoke about, we do like an interview with whoever we were going to hire, and we check their background. We ask them a couple questions to figure out, how their mentality is and how would they accept it or not. And we also discussed that we also have one of the family, because we have other shops in other locations. I have like almost 5 brothers, so we're like, everyone is going to be in, like every family member is going to be there, so he can run the shop with whoever is there, who the employers. Second thing, the advertisement. We're not going to be advertising pictures of whatever we have. Smoke shop, it has its own people who knows about it. Like, not anybody randomly just go to a smoke shop. It's not a grocery shop, or, it's a place where people who likes vapes, who likes puffs, who want to quit smoking. There's also like, stages for people who want to, like some catalogs that we have, we offer the people, whoever wants to stop smoking, hey, you can start with this much nicotine, you can go, slowly, this way you can get rid of that bad habit, one of them. And about the advertisement, we don't really show pictures out there. We don't put no pictures on the, on the window. We have nice decoration. It's going to be nice. It's going to be lightning. It's going to be a place where the cigar is. It's going to be, couches and stuff. Plus, we also have the section of the CBD. CBD is a product, I think, if you guys are familiar with it, I would have loved to brought, more information about it. It helps with pain. It helps with releasing stress. It's a good product, and it's healthy. It's way better than smoking cigarettes, or also that's another way in quitting cigarettes. Whoever, smokes cigarettes, they can go to the path to the smoking CBDs. This way, it opens the lungs. It has more than one benefit towards it. And if you guys have any question, I'm ready to answer.
Yeah, council questions for Mr. Abdullah? Mary, go ahead.
So how many locations do you have?
We have almost 3.
3?
Yes, ma'am.
And then this would be an
Additional
one.
Yes,
You
ma'am.
wouldn't be closing one of the other ones.
What is it?
It's not taking the place of one of the other locations?
No.
Okay.
We are expanding.
And how long has your longest business been in effect?
You could say 3 years now.
3 years?
Yes, ma'am.
And have you been gaining more customers all along? Have you been successful?
Yes, thanks God. Yeah, we are. That's why we're looking to come to City of Saginaw and open one here. They're called Puff City. I don't know if you guys have ever, saw them or, so hopefully we can come here and expand more and expand our business.
I do know that Planning and Zoning unanimously approved your application for
Yes.
the specific use permit.
Yes.
And I know that in the minutes it did mention that they did ask quite a few probing questions. But the minutes that are taken for those meetings aren't intended to be specific. They're intended to be general in nature. So we didn't have access to the specific questions and the specific answers. So if you don't mind, I will ask a few questions.
Yes, of course. Go ahead.
Do you sell any products that could be used for illegal drug use?
Okay, that's, I don't know. I'm not gonna take it to a religion way, but no, we don't. We seriously don't, and that's one of my major things, and my dad won't allow it. Our dad won't not allow it, to be honest, you know. Like, we're strict about these kind of stuff, you know. We can't sell no beer, we can't sell no drug stuff. We're not here to supply these stuff. We're here to expand business because that's what the market wants. The puffs, everybody's going towards that. You know, it's something modern. That's all. And it's my brothers are running it. I'm running a mechanic shops, and my brothers, they're the one. I have two twin also. Those are the mainly guys who's doing that. They're the one who's doing this. But we won't allow it in the family and by religion too, you know. We can't do it. Not because of this, like, I'm trying to say this because I want to take the approve. No, it's something you guys can Google us and see our Instagram pages. We don't. We might sell hookah, the Arabic hookah. I don't know if you guys know it. And it's just tobacco, you know. That's all. Yes,
Okay, well, I'm glad to hear that.
Yes, sir.
Because I don't know, 10 or 20 years ago, those kinds of shops were very popular that were kind of advertising themselves as something that they were not, and they were really selling drug paraphernalia. So I just wanted to make sure this was not that.
It's not going to be that way. Okay. Trust me. It's something is going to be nice, looking nice. We're going to spend money for it, not to have drug addict come in to the shop. You know, we don't want that kind of people. Anybody who comes who wants to deal with us, it's going to be hard for us to deal with them. It's going to make a lot of problems. It's going to cause us a lot of headache. And we're not looking for more money. We're looking for successful business. That's what we're looking for, to be honest.
So you mentioned that you do take the carding, the ID
of course,
make sure that they're 21 or older.
Yes.
And so are you and your employees accustomed to understanding how to spot a fake ID? Are you very
That's a good question.
good at doing that?
That's a good question. See, that's, yeah, of course, you know, you have to, you know, see the ID. That to be honest, I really don't know. I had to ask the guys about it, you know, and see what exactly they do to spot that fake ID. But you know, obviously, anybody comes in. Like us being there, it's not to, you know, figure out if that's a fake ID or not. You know, I'm not a police officer. I'm being honest. That's from my point of view, you know. Might have a fake ID, he's going to go do it not only in my shop, he's going to do it all over the place. But you can tell if someone comes in, he looks young, you know, and it doesn't make sense. You can tell, okay, this guy is, by look and appearance or something, but to kind of have a machine that's going to figure out, they have copies, it's like red, like they can get it as if it's real ID, you know. But you can tell from their faces, obviously. You can see this guy is 18, 17. You can tell how old are they. So.
Another question I had, there, of course, is a concern.
Yes.
We don't want, of course, we don't want under 21-year-olds going to your business.
Yes.
And there was a concern about it being near a restaurant that a lot of younger people go to.
A restaurant?
Yes, CC's restaurant, but I looked on
it's a Chinese restaurant, I guess.
It's actually
Next to the Chinese place is the pizza place.
Pizza place.
Oh.
On the west side, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it's on the screen behind you, but yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
there are 5 businesses between that restaurant and where you hope to have your business. So I don't really think being 5 businesses away would be something that we should be worried about, you know,
Yes.
people under 21.
Yes, I don't. The where we at? We're at the end of the building. We have next to us is T-Mobile. We have GNC, the
Right.
muscle shop. So I also don't think any underage go to the muscle shop too much, right?
And you mentioned, I think, that you wouldn't have any signs on the outside of your
No.
shop that would be trying to cater to underage
No.
children. And I think requiring a specific use permit In this case, it's probably because of the use and probably wanting to make sure that it's not located near a school,
Yes.
perhaps. So I would be more concerned if your shop wanted to locate next door to a middle school or a high school.
Look,
So that's not the case.
Yes.
So I'm not
we're not.
concerned about
Yes.
that. And about what percentage of your sales are the vaping product?
Okay, the vaping product, you can say it's almost 70%
Okay.
of puffs, vapes, the machines, the nicotine, whatever the juices are. And the other 30% is going to be like ashtrays, shirts, whatever. We're not just going to sell that. We're going to have more other stuff, cool stuff to put there to sell, It's not just
Okay.
Cigars as well, right?
cigar. It needs its people, it needs the people who understand about cigars and
sure.
want to come. So yeah, of course, cigar is going to be like 10%, let's say
Oh, really?
15% of people who likes to have cigar, and yeah,
That's all the questions I had.
yes, ma'am.
Anyone else? Cindy?
I appreciate you coming here tonight. I understand that this
My first time. Too.
space has been open for 4 years.
Yes.
And I understand the property manager's concern about trying to fill it. But I have a concern because of all of the negative medical information that comes out about, not just cigarettes, but vaping and puffs
Yes.
and all this other thing. I'm concerned about that, especially when we're going to be building a subdivision back behind this Walmart area, that shopping center. It's going to be walking distance for kids. They'll probably come around that corner. And so that's a concern for me. But again, my biggest concern are the medical issues behind it, with vaping and
Yes.
all the reports that have come out lately.
But to be honest, the vaping is way more better than smoking. Like people.
Depends on the report that you listen to
Yeah.
or
right.
read.
Yes. I don't know what to say really about that medical issue, but that's going to be a personal. Like he have the right to buy it or not. He's going to be old enough to understand, hey, this is going to be good for your health or not, or how he's going to use it. Now, I'm not going to prevent him from not doing that because it's my business.
It's your business, I understand.
So I'm going to be selling it. You can't tell people, okay, beer and alcohol is bad. You tell them. That's what that's what the city or how we advertise. Yes, this is bad. Smoking kills. You have to put it on the pack. But if they're mature enough to understand if he wants to do it or not. But we can help by offering some programs to make him stop smoking. That's maybe a good side of it. But otherwise, it's just a mature choice. Yes, ma'am.
You had said something about the couches over in there. Are you going to allow smoking inside of this facility?
No, it's about, whoever comes to see, wants cigar, he has a special treatment. Not treatment, treat. Like we treat them differently because, cigar, it's mostly class people likes to go in and have their time sitting down, picking up which kind they want. There's kinds that's way too much expensive, so you have to have like a special, marketing for them. This is the way that we market it up to have them take it, So that's all. No smoking in the building.
Yeah, because we have a no smoking ordinance here, so
Yes.
I know that applies to restaurants, but I don't know if that applies to, our other businesses as well.
But when I asked the first time in the city, they said that smoking is allowed, maybe, right? It's like a hookah lounge or a hookah bar.
No.
You're not
has-
asking for that anyhow, so that's a sort of a moot point. You're not asking for a smoking, you're not asking for there to be smoking in your shop anyhow, so this is not really.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
We're not, no
Well, that's,
smoking.
you know,
Sure.
but those are the concerns that I have.
Yes, ma'am. I
Is
hope
the
I
health
answered them.
issues, and I don't know how this aligns with our no smoking ordinance that we have.
Questions? Questions? Mr. Farr?
So I just have a couple of questions of Brent. So my concerns, as expressed in the last meeting, is although this is 5 businesses away from CC's Pizza, Eagle Mountain Saginaw parks their buses on that east end, and kids file out of those buses and walk straight down that sidewalk to CC's Pizza for their in-person learning, where they get to go back behind the scenes and see pizzas get cooked and all that good stuff. So you get a bunch of kids that are moving in front of your shop. And in this particular SUP, my legal question was, can we restrict what kinds of signage, not quantity of signage, but what kinds of signage goes on the front of this shop to ensure that nothing like bubblegum flavored vapes, no way in the world would I ever accept a business that markets to kids selling this product. If you're advertising bubblegum flavored something, you're not telling me you're advertising that to a 25 or 30-year-old person. You're advertising that to get your next crop of buyers.
Yes, but
So-
we're not advertising the names of the. That's the thing. We're not here to just sell the juices or advertising what kind of juice in there. No, it's not going to be advertised. I might advertise like 3 for $12, 4 for. Yeah, that's what I'm going to advertise. But I'm not going to advertise. Okay, bubble. No, that's not the way we do it.
So my question to you, Brent, is can we write into this SUP that the type of advertising cannot target minors?
We cannot regulate the content or message of a sign.
Okay.
We can only regulate time, place, and manner. So the size of the signs, whether they're illuminated, how many signs you can have. But if you target the message itself, even though it's commercial speech, it still infringes on the First Amendment. So the message, we would not be able to enforce a condition that targeted the message on the face of the signs, unfortunately.
We couldn't, but could the landlord put that into their lease agreement?
Sure, the landlord's not the government, and so the landlord can stipulate what sort of message that can be displayed on his or her building.
Brent, I also thought there were already some kind of state law regarding what flavors they could sell and things. Is that correct?
I know there may be some state laws that govern advertising and soliciting to minors of certain tobacco products. I'd have to look into that because it's not a municipal authority. It's a statutory authority. And obviously the sale of tobacco products to minors is illegal. So, but I'd be happy to look at that, but I'm afraid I don't know offhand.
And just to piggyback off of one of the questions that Mary had asked, when you were talking about drug paraphernalia, you are not talking about the drug itself. What you're talking about are things to consume the drug with. So, rolling paper. You're talking about bongs. You're talking about pipes or bowls. Do you sell any of those things?
No.
Okay, just wanted to be specific because
Yes.
what I was hearing was the word paraphernalia, and what I heard you kind of defending against is the product itself. So
The
what
product
she's-
and whatever,
would
that's
convey
not-
that product.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, of
All right.
course. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So my only hesitation here is that when the landlord was here, she mentioned that she had certain restrictions in the lease, but I
Yes.
think that those restrictions were geared towards kind of sign, size of sign, quantity of sign,
Yes.
but not necessarily explicitly preventing you from advertising to minors. And what's happening here is that you're asking us to grant you a specific use permit, okay, to sell a product in our community that is an addictive product. And no one can argue that. Someone can argue that vaping might be safer than smoking, but no one can argue
Of course.
that smoking
It's bad.
is not addictive.
Yes.
Okay, it's addictive. And the way that the business survives is that it has to get the next generation addicted. That's the way the business survives. And I'm not talking about your business, I'm talking about the tobacco industry itself.
Yes.
Okay? It dies if a whole generation decides we're not going to smoke.
Of
There
course.
is nothing to sell because the people that are smoking will die off, right? So
Yes.
they have to attract that next crop of smokers. And I know I enjoy a cigar. I mean, I love cigars.
Yes.
But I don't necessarily want my 16-year-old being encouraged to go out and do that. I'm encouraging her enough by smoking a cigar in front of her, right?
Yes.
But I would like to know whether or not we could have something in that lease agreement that would prevent you or whoever else is operating the business on site, if you've got a manager or something that's on site that doesn't know the restriction. And I hate that I'm saying this in a First Amendment limitation statement, because I want you to be able to advertise what you're selling, but I don't want you targeting kids.
We're not going to target kids because we're not going to allow any kids to come in. So even though if I have signage, but I'm not going to have signage outside with pictures, because that's what also the lease, she's telling me, like, I can't have anything on the windows. Of course, I wanted to have some kind of, pictures on there, but also she said, and they mentioned in the lease, that I cannot have anything posted like that in the front. And that's what the city also had, after we asked, because, she had to figure out the lease contract, and I think she did, and we're not going to have any pictures on there. I'm going to have a sign saying Royal Smoke Shop, and a Royal crown on it. That's going to be it. If I'm going to have anything to advertise, I'm going to advertise the prices. I'm going to go, a little bit low, because I want business. I want to be successful. I want to, be able to pay my rent, be able to pay my employers, be able to make income from that shop, pay taxes, all that stuff, But I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not opening the shop to have all those consideration in, whatever it is. The most important fact here is just me not selling kids, and that's impossible. That's not going to happen because, first of all, it's illegal. I can go to jail, or whoever is working is going to go to jail, and we're going to be like, it's an illegal thing that I'm going to do. So we're not going to open a shop, and I'm not here like, and I wanted to continue with the SUP with, with a strong faith that I'm going to get it, not because, we're going to do something wrong. Hey, we come into this city. I know it's probably like not a big, the biggest city, but it's more attached. I can see it's more people. I haven't had this, meeting ever. I've did permits before, but I see like here they consider everything, I wasn't even more prepared for all that, but I'm not going to do something illegal. That's what you have to understand. And first, nothing is going to be selling no drugs or not drugs, like pipes that's going to, make it easier for him or make him feel happy with whatever he's doing. No, I'm selling vapes, products like, I have a bunch of stuff in there. I'm not going to memorize everything in there, but we have a lot of stuff in there that's not only vapes. And to be honest, there's no much profit in the vapes. Vapes is something like the cigarettes. Bring the customer in. Because if this gas station don't sell cigarettes and the next one sell it, and you smoke, you're going to go to the one that sells it. My target is to sell the 30%, because the 30% is going to make me more profit. And that's where we hustle, or where we go in to make our money, is bringing you for this flavor or for this whatever you use, so I can sell you whatever I have on the side, so I can make more money. I'm not going to open a shop to make $12 or $13.
Sure.
I want to sell the $50, $60, the other stuff that I have. That's how we think about it. That's all.
I can think of no other place in the city where the business would be more appropriate. It's generating commerce. It's a product that does sell.
Yes.
And Larry or Gabe or someone might be able to answer this. Do we have any other shops like this in the city limits? I know we have them on the border in Fort Worth, right on the border, but do we have any other shops like this in the city limits?
Yes.
I'm not aware of another shop.
In the city limits?
Is it within our side of the road? Our side of the road?
On Blue Mountain Road?
Yeah, there's,
Blue Mountain? Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yes, there's another shop. It's down next to Valero. Is Valero through the city limits? Valero, the gas station.
No, that's in Fort Worth.
That's Fort Worth. Okay, yeah. Because he's there. He's next to it.
Yeah. So the one that's
the closest.
Yeah, that's in Fort Worth.
Yes.
So what I'm wanting to just put together in my head, what's the square footage of this space? About 1,800 feet or
18.
so? Okay. And does anyone know what's the square footage of the space on 156? About the same size?
It's probably 1,000, 1,200 square foot, I believe. But, there's many places as far as the CBD, even Sunshine Herbs.
Mm-hmm.
So it's clear. There is other
Right, and
convenience stores. So,
you can buy cigarettes at Walgreens. You can buy
Yes.
cigarettes at Walmart. So this is not.
Absolutely.
It's a legal product that is legal to sell.
Yep.
So
So what I'm thinking through is, out of all of the commerce that we have in the city, if we've only got 3,000 square feet of it dedicated to selling these particular products, I don't think it's a bad thing. And to have it on both sides of the city is not a bad thing. I'm just concerned about marketing to kids. And
Yes.
even though I can't restrict what you're doing, it is very near and dear to the hearts of most everybody in this city. We protect our kids.
I really can see that, and I really appreciate that. I wish I could move to Saginaw.
Okay.
It's very protected.
Patrick, anything else?
No, sir.
Charles? Yeah, so a couple things I want to point out, and I just mentioned, this is a legal product. We've got to keep that in mind. Cigarettes are legal. It's legal to sell, as long as he follows the law,
Yes.
And you can buy cigarettes at Walgreens. You walk in and buy cigarettes. I think you can buy vapes at QT and the other kind of places like that. So this is not the only place in town where you can buy these kind of products. Don't think that, Mr. Abdullah is doing anything special that other businesses aren't already doing in the city.
Yes.
So that's just something I want to point out. I'm a big fan of capitalism, and if you want to come in and make some money and do a business, I completely understand. I mean,
Thank you, sir.
you do it legally, you do it right. My question on this SUP, let's say, and this is sort of along what Patrick was saying, let's say we approve this tonight, but then in the future something changes, or he puts a sign up that is maybe advertise some kind of flavor sign or something like that. Can we reconsider this SUP? What's our legal ramifications for this?
you can legally initiate a zoning change to revoke the SUP. There could be some investment-backed expectations, takings liability associated with simply rescinding an otherwise then lawful activity, simply because, not because of an unlawful activity taking place at the premises, but because we're concerned about the signage. I would be worried that on the same grounds, the First Amendment grounds, that we base the revocation on a First Amendment protected issue, that we may have liability for the arbitrary and unreasonable revocation of the zoning, and then possible takings liability for the value of the business.
Okay. Well, thank you, Ren. So my point is, if we approve this SUP, we could come back and reconsider in the future. I don't think we will, but just keep that in mind. We want you to follow the procedures you've already lined out and what you talked with the landlord. So if we do approve it, that's what we expect, and we could come back and consider any more. I don't think we will, but I just want to see that the city has some options. I'm letting the council know that we do have options. We can consider this again. So, Brandon, go ahead.
Sure. Thank you. You could place a time period on the SUP, which would require that the SUP be renewed. So in other words, you could grant the SUP with a 5-year time frame, and then if there were concerns, signage or otherwise, we not necessarily need to articulate it, the SUP would terminate unless it were renewed through a rezoning process.
Ah, okay. That's an interesting option. I like that. Other council, other questions, comments based on that?
I'm just thinking that time frame or time horizon could be connected to the lease. So whatever your lease term is,
Yes.
when that lease term expires, then you got to get another SUP.
Okay, but look, let me explain. If I wanted to sell the shop in the future, wise, is that going to affect it?
So that's a
So
Bren
I
question.
understand.
Yeah, so the SUP is a land use. It has nothing to do with ownership. So you could sell it, the shop could be sold and transferred in ownership multiple times over during the tenure of the period that's dictated. Whoever owns it at the end of the period that's dictated is subject to having it rescinded or expire.
Okay.
So if it's tied to a lease, though, and he sells the business and that lease transfers,
Well, so when you say tied to the lease, what I understood, and the only thing we can do is we just take the term of the lease and plug it into the SUP.
Got it.
We can't tie it to the lessee,
Gotcha.
lessor, all the rest.
It's just the timing. Yeah.
the time. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's an interesting thought, and I don't want to make it onerous for you. I really don't. And if I'm sort of thinking this out. So let's say we approve this tonight. You go, you do your business, everything's great. We say it comes back in 5 years. You come again, we say everything's great, and you keep going. I don't want to say I'm going to cut you off because I don't want to. I want you to do your business and be successful. We also want you to follow the rules and run a clean shop, or
Yes.
however you want to say that. So I don't want to make it over the honor. I really don't. But I'm trying to think how we could make this palatable for everybody, if that makes sense. Something that we can support. As I mentioned, there are lots of other places in Saigon that sell cigarettes. So you're not the only one. So I don't want to treat him special and single you out at all. I really don't. So what does the rest of the council think? Do we want to? You want to put a time period on this? What do we think we could do or we could live with?
I like the time frame. We can do a 5-year horizon for him. That's a pretty healthy time frame.
And that's
You probably sell the business before 5 years.
Yeah.
who knows? Yeah, who knows? But you would have the option to do that. Yeah.
I'm gonna
And so that's
make
legally we could put a 5-year on it, and then it would just come back up, and we would
That's right.
just identically go through this hearing again, and we'd have to go back to P&Z.
It would have to go back to P&Z and council. It's essentially a fresh, new application, although it would stand on the old one. But
Okay.
there are no investment-backed expectations if the expiration date is dictated on day one.
Okay. Sandy, you have a question?
I have a comment. I hate government getting deeply involved in the details of people's businesses. At some point, we have to trust the businesses that want to come into
Thank you.
town. And trust me, I do not like smoke shops. I do not like vape shops. I just, I don't like it. But I know everybody chooses their own business.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm not going to let my personal opinions get in the way of my judgment here.
Thank you.
But I don't want to set a precedence for other businesses trying to come in by putting, any more restrictions on them when we have businesses selling the same products here in town. I just don't think that's fair to this gentleman trying to come in and trying to manage everything else that he's doing and then having to deal with extra restrictions. As much as I dislike the business, I hate the fact that the government gets involved to the minute details.
Mary?
Yes, I agree with Cindy on her comments, and I appreciate the fact that she's not allowing her personal likes and dislikes to influence her decisions.
Okay. Oh, yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
Y'all keep saying that him selling cigarettes all over the city. Well, he's not selling cigarettes, right?
We're going to have cigarettes.
You're going to have cigarettes too?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I wasn't thinking.
Yeah, it's
All kind of tobacco.
yes, all kind of tobacco.
All right, council, other questions, comments? Thank you, sir. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Other questions, comments, anything else we need to consider? If not, I will entertain a motion. Mary?
Mayor, I would like to make a motion to approve ordinance 2021-08, which is a specific use permit to allow the operation of a smoke shop at Lot 2RA, Block A of the Saginaw Retail Center.
Okay.
I'll second.
Charles, second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed? All right. Welcome to the city. Nope. As presented. As in the packet, so. Welcome to the city. Good luck, sir. Look forward to working with you.
Mayor, I did talk to Brent earlier that there are some dates that need to be corrected in that ordinance.
Okay.
So,
Bryn?
Yes, and actually, I'm looking in the version in the packet online, and it's actually been corrected. So it's possible that that's an archived version that you have. But, I mean, thank you for pointing that out, though.
Good. All right, thank you, folks. Moving forward, item number 6. Citizen action regarding Resolution 2021-09, adopting a fiscal year 2021 annual strategic plan project list and work plan. For that, City Manager Gabriel.
Mayor and council, as the saying goes, I hope third time's the charm. So since our last meeting, I have put some dates tied to quarters in the fiscal year to each of these projects. I have not heard comments, feedback, requests for information from the city council. So I'm assuming that no news is good news. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. And again, our intent with these projects is to provide quarterly updates. So with that, happy to answer any questions.
Council questions. So Exhibit A is on our screen. I don't know if we really want to. I don't really want to dive into details. We've sort of gone through these before. Any specific projects that council has questions on, either the project itself, the task, or the timing? Questions? Cindy?
I do, and I apologize for not getting back with you. I actually sat down with pencil and paper and laid this out several ways today, trying to get an understanding. First thing I'd like to see is under your Q1 through Q4 definitions, tag a year to it, like October through December 2020, so it's clearer what time frame we're talking about. There's several entries in here that do not have time frames on them. For example, scroll down here on the Diversity and Inclusion Committee creation. Item number 3 has a TBD. Again, we had asked for approximation of dates when you tried to have things done, and there were, like under comprehensive plan and process adoption, you have a couple items, or 3 items in there without, or 2 of them without quarters assigned to them. So I'd like to see that clarified. And I was just wondering, are these completion dates that you have on here?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, happy to answer council members' questions. So thank you for pointing that out. I appreciate that. I had, maybe it needs clarification, but the Q1 and Q4 tied to our fiscal year, which is
Yes.
referenced in the document.
Right, it's a fiscal
So-
year, but you don't, but even, on Q1, it's still going to be 2020.
Well, fiscal year 22, Q1 would be 21, in calendar year 21. So I'm happy to clarify, but that was the intent.
So-
I'm sorry?
So this is not for this year, this fiscal year? This,
The fiscal year we're in currently began October 1st of 2020.
right, so your Exhibit A is for this fiscal year.
That is correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
So to your point, that's fair. October to December would be previous calendar year, which would be 2020.
Yes.
Yeah, happy to clarify.
Yeah.
And we can do that with the jot of a pen right now. Engaging the committee. So we have said the Diversity and Inclusion Committee will participate in a version of the Citizens Police Academy. That is sequentially probably going to follow after the other items listed above. So I'm happy to slide that into probably quarter 3, if that pleases the council. The other 2 items in the comprehensive plan, the ones that don't have dates, the draft recommendations to city council every other month, sort of self-explanatory. I think with those bi-monthly updates, the other item, identify strategies and that sort of thing, that was sort of the intent there, that we're going to be updating you very regularly on that.
And my question on those 2 particular items, is that going to stop at the end of this fiscal year, or are we going to continue on with this information into the next fiscal year?
That's a great question. So anticipated adoption really would be fall over into the following fiscal year.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that there'll be some ongoing items and the actual implementation of the plan, strategies, and those sort of things. Once we have the plan in place and initial discussions, that'll guide that. So fair point. So
Yeah. Well, like I said, I was a little confused. I didn't know if these quarter time stamps on here were completion dates or working dates. That was a little confusing to me. And of course, that's the project management side of me kicking in.
Sure.
Trying to understand what these definitions of these tasks are.
Sure. So the honest reality is this, and to repeat from previous council meetings, our intent is to update you quarterly. So this is our best guess to way how the work will flow. Likely will change, as any project does, and we'll change with it. So.
Okay. Looking over on at the end of the second page, projects, and those are kind of the questions I had all the way through this, and I numbered mine just for ease of use, but you don't have the numbers on yours, item 1 through 10. But the last one is projects in progress and carried over into fiscal year 21.
Mm-hmm.
Are any of those completed? Because as I laid this out, I noticed you really don't have anything happening in the first quarter of this fiscal year off this list.
Sure. So many of those are in progress. If projects had been completed, I would have noted them as such or not included them in the list. So if that answers your question.
But again, we still don't know, because I don't know if this is in work numbers that you're putting on here, in work quarters or completion quarters. I don't know where we stand on this last item that you added in here.
Well, and again, and I apologize for the confusion. I'm a pretty practical, straightforward person. The project is scheduled according to the fiscal year. We all understand that. The fiscal year begins 3 months into the previous calendar year, and then our intent would be to give quarterly updates. So as we give quarterly updates, we'll check things off the list, give you updates, that sort of thing.
Okay, but if you look at the first bullet, Code of Ordinance updates, you don't have a quarter time stamp on here when you either plan to work on it or complete it. Same thing with the code enforcement.
So some of those things are kind of ongoing, and again, the intent is to provide quarterly updates. Do we have specific ordinance updates in the hopper? I mean, most of our ordinance updates recently are development related. I may phone a friend and look to Rick here.
Well, plus, we've had text amendments in the zoning ordinance for different
Well, I mean,
approaches, but we do have some ordinances underway or reviews. Also, our standard details, which was revision, that's an ordinance amendment.
Yeah.
Was comprehensive. The subdivision ordinance does need a lot of work, so we're probably going to attack that at one chapter at a time. But
and then how are we going to identify completion by measurables? What are your, that doesn't have to be in this, but, you know, in your quarterly reports, I would like to see this broken down into a lot more detail, how we know that you actually have completed it rather than just saying, I'm done. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and again, staff will update quarterly on the projects, so when staff feels that a project's substantially complete, we'll bring that to your attention. We can talk about the moving parts or the pieces. Lots of these projects result in something that requires your approval. So, yeah, that's the intent. Quarterly, we update you, check things off the list, keep moving forward, make adjustments to projects if necessary.
Well, like I said, I'd like to see this to be a little bit clearer. So, but I'm willing to approve it, but I think this is going to need to continue to be updated, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Quarterly, 3 months from now, we'll have the most exciting update for you that we can.
Oh, no, that's going to be the end of this
bring.
month. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 things to report on the end of Q2, the end of this month.
Yeah, so in April, we'll likely update on completion at the beginning of the month of the most previous quarter end.
Okay.
All right, other questions?
Thank you.
Anybody else have questions? Mayor Pro Tem? Mr. Patrick Farr?
So I just would like to, I'm just going to clarify the Q, where we have Q2, Q3, anything that is in, say, Q1 for this past year is long gone, right? So if you say Q1 anywhere in this report, you would be talking about Q1 of 2021, right? I
Yeah,
want to make sure I'm clear. It's a little fuzzy because we're running on the fiscal year quarter.
Yeah.
Q1's 2020.
So if you could just simply, and I don't want to modify it tonight.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that this is adequate to take action on. But for internal communication purposes, when we're looking at this, if you can just say Q2 20 or Q2 21, just to identify the fiscal year you intend to complete.
Sure, that's fair.
The calendar year, right? Because Q1 is still fiscal year 21, but it's the calendar year 20, right?
Well, we're in what budget year? We're in our 20 budget year, right? I'm sorry, 21
We're
budget
in
year.
fiscal year 21.
So
Yep.
we're already 21 here. So when he's saying he's finishing Q2, Q3, 21, that's fiscal quarter 3, right?
Yes, yes,
And fiscal quarter 3
April, May,
is
June.
June.
right.
So in June of this year, he would be finished with anything that says Q3.
But
That'd be the last month of that quarter.
That's the intent. And then staff's intent would be to bring an update the first meeting that following month. You know, I've shared this with you before. My hobby is love reading in investment-related material, quarterly conference calls, publicly traded companies. It follows the same logical flow. So, and to your point, it is confusing because we overlap calendar years, but easily corrected.
But the reason that we're having it reported this way is because we want your work plan to coincide with our budget planning.
Yeah, so in a perfect scenario, we need to call the hurry-up offense, and, the best case scenario would be, which in fact I'm used to, is to adopt a work plan concurrent with the new budget year.
Yes.
So that way you don't have the funny hiccups
Yeah,
where we're
so-
starting.
Now,
Yeah.
ideally, we want to see this in
Yeah.
September,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely. And I think,
We just happen to be adopting it in the spring. We're kind
You're
of in
right.
the middle of the year.
It's okay.
So it's making it a little confusing for all of us. So,
So-
and I understand Cindy's questions and concerns with not identifying the actual year next to the quarter, but I think I understand what you're conveying here
Yeah.
clearly. So,
I don't want to have to guess. I want to know what this is telling me.
understood? So,
And you're talking budget year, but then you put in Q1, I equate that out to the first quarter.
right?
Not for the budget year, though. It's weird, I know.
If I was reading this, I'm not looking at budget year, I'm looking at the first quarter. And the first quarter is not October to December. Why are we making this difficult?
It is the first quarter of our budget year. Our budget year starts in October.
Just put it together and then tell me what it is.
so,
I mean, you're gonna have to, I'm simple, I'm old,
Hey.
but, I need to know what we're talking about.
you, in a fit of good judgment, I might add, you hired the best, most practical finger counter you've ever seen, which is me. The way we fix this is we just say fiscal year, I would say on the heading. That makes it crystal clear to everybody. We've got the 3-month hiccup where your fiscal year is in a different calendar year. So, like I said, we can edit that quickly. Our good friends at Toast likely won't charge us a billable hour for it. So, happy to fix it.
I don't know how I got a part in that.
Sorry, Brad.
I was making sure you're still with us, sir. You're up to bat next.
You were caught in the crossfire. All right, other questions? I don't want to belabor this. I think it's a really good where we are. And I think that the big point is what we're doing and the quarterly updates. That's really the takeaway message. So, other questions, concerns? If not, I'll entertain a motion on this.
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve the work plan as presented.
I second.
Okay. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed? All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Gabe.
Thank you.
Moving forward, item number 7, political advertising rules associated with city bond election. For that, City Attorney Bryn Meredith.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and Council. Gabe asked me to give you a brief overview of the political advertising rules in Texas, and then I thought I'd open it up for questions because I know there's a fair amount of confusion associated with what we can and cannot do with respect to these bond measures. So now that we actually have the measures in place, the Texas Election Code prohibits there's two things: expenditure of public funds. Both of these have to be present, okay? This is why this is important. Expenditure of public funds for advocacy for or against the measure. So you can have advocacy with no expenditure of public funds, and you can have expenditure of public funds with no advocacy. See, for instance, we're allowed to publish factual information about the bonds on a daily, hourly basis because factual information does not advocate for or against the measure. You all are also allowed on your own time, on your own Facebook page, to thoroughly and enthusiastically advocate for or against these measures because there's no expenditure of public funds. You need both of those things present. Where people can become tripped up is the understanding, a traditional notion understanding of expenditure of public funds. It does not necessarily require that money change hands or that money be expended. So the difficulty that staff has primarily is while they are on the clock, they cannot advocate for or against the measure because their salary is being paid while that occurrence takes place. sending out emails encouraging people to do things, adding anything to the city's website that advocates for or against, using the photocopy machine, driving in a city vehicle. If you're driving in the city vehicle and going and putting up signs, and the city is, and even if you're off duty and the city's paying for the fuel in the vehicle because it's a take-home vehicle, that's a use of public funds to help facilitate impermissible advocacy. Okay, so that's the two-part test that just always have to keep in mind. But when you are on your own, when city staff are on their own free time, you all each have a First Amendment right to advocate for or against. I haven't heard of this here, but you could. Some of you may remember long ago when there was a fire civil service election. There were a couple of members of the fire department that were in favor of the civil service election, while several members of council and staff were opposed to it. So you're not always on the same page, which is fine, but you just cannot use any public funds to finance the facilitation or advocacy of for or against any political measure, once the item becomes truly a measure for public consideration. So with that said, I'm happy to answer any questions. There may be specific instances that you want feedback on. I know I've spoken with a couple of you already about what's permissible. I'll add one other item. I've had a conversation with one of you and also with a member of staff related to a board advisory board member's question about, can the city help me with the proper disclosures that I'm required to have on my signs that advocate for these measures? And if the city pays me to research what the disclosure has to be on your personal sign advocating for the measure, then you're essentially using public funds to finance what is essentially advocacy for the measure. So it's easy to get tripped up on it, but again, I'm happy to answer any questions, and if anything comes up through the date of the election, please feel free to reach out to me.
Questions for Bryn?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Gabe.
I just have one brief comment for everybody in the audience and listening. So our informational material has been reviewed by Bryn before it's been published out of an abundance of caution to make sure that we all are following the rules. So our website is live now at SaginawTXBond2021.org. Has a lot of information. It has the bond committee's recommendation letter. Some of our bond committee members are late for dinner and are in the audience with us. So want to let you know that we're being very cautious. Bryn has reviewed our website to make sure that there's not any language that could be considered advocacy, and that all of our informational communications are just that. They're informational.
And I'll add quickly, just as an end note, the penalty for violating that provision of the election code is it's a criminal offense, Class A misdemeanor, which includes potential jail time, and the Texas Ethics Commission has authority to levy civil penalties for violations of the political advertising rules against you personally, not the city.
Questions for City Attorney? I would encourage you, if you have questions offline, to please raise them with Gabe or Bryn. Absolutely. We want to make sure this is done legally. We want to do it correctly. My token to citizens is we're having an election May 1st. Please vote.
And I'm perfectly comfortable with when you seek legal advice from me about whether or not something can be done. I think that's fair game. That's not assisting with the advocacy.
Yeah. So we definitely want to get the vote out. People to turn out. We want people to be educated, make their own decision, but vote, because it's really hard to get people to vote in city elections. I'm sorry. I tell people, I don't care who you vote for, honestly, just vote. Really, please. So, PSA. Any other questions? Thank you, Brad. Moving forward to item number 9. No, sorry, 8. I skipped one. Oh, and I skipped Dana. I wouldn't want to do that. Presentation and review of Tarrant County Bond Program. For that, we got another VIP. Welcome, Dana.
Thanks. Good evening, Mayor, Council. Excited to be here tonight to talk about the transportation bond election Tarrant County is going to do. First, before I get into it, just wanted to let you know I'm going to give you an overview of the Tarrant County Bond Program, but also get your feedback on what the City of Saginaw would like to submit for the call for projects. So don't worry, I only have 7 slides to present tonight, so it's not a long, drawn-out presentation. I think this works. So I think y'all are aware Tarrant County is doing a November 2021 bond election for transportation improvement projects. A letter was sent out in late January to, I believe, addressed to you, Mayor Flippo, with the information. Attached to it was a 5-page policy that they have related to their bond program, and I'm going to highlight that, talk about the program goals and the structure, talk about specifically the call for projects, which every city in Tarrant County can submit for a 50% match to Tarrant County to get funding. The requirements for the submittal, some other funding categories in addition to the call for projects, the schedule, the projects that we are looking at submitting an application for, and then some other projects we considered along the way. So overall, it's going to be in November 2021 is when they're going to have the election. The goal of it is to provide financial support for advancing transportation improvements within Tarrant County. The last one they did was in 2006, so it's been a long time. And in that, during that time, Saginaw was able to get a couple of projects funded, which was Longhorn Road and then also Bailey Boswell West in front of the Walmart. So just for some information there for you. So overall, the program goals that's outlined in the policy are to increase mobility, reduce congestion, enhance safety, and improve connectivity. So that's the major goals of the program, and that's what the county is looking for when you submit for projects for that. It is a $400 million total that Tarrant County is going to fund, and this is not going to require a tax increase to the county residents, which is great news. There's 3 major funding categories, which I'll go into a little bit more detail next, but there's 3 different funding categories. The $200 million is going to go to the call for projects for the cities that are going to do a 50% match, and that's where you get selected. The projects get ranked, and you can be selected. Each commissioner is going to have a discretionary fund, and what equates to $75 million. And then there's also some money reserved for countywide initiatives, which is more multi-jurisdictional type projects. So getting into the specific calls for projects, which is what we need to submit here in April, which I mentioned already. The letter was received January 28th. And I also was told, I don't think I told you this, Dolph, Tarrant County sent an early release to you because you had been talking about it and knew you'd be interested, so that was pretty neat to hear. So applications are due April 16th. I already mentioned 50% match. It had been asked before, that's why I put it in here, is that if you put more than 50%, would it score higher? And I did clarify with the county that that's not going to be one of their criteria. If the city puts in 70%, like would they score higher? That's not one of their criteria. It's just a straight up 50% match, just so you all know. Construction will need to begin in 5 years from the November election. So that's what they're looking for. They do have some projects that were in the 2006 that are still not completed, so they're really looking for projects that are closer to shovel ready, and those are going to score higher. So he mentioned specifically to me that if you don't need right-of-way, if you have limited franchise utility relocations, you don't have federal involvement that requires long, drawn-out environmental process, no railroads.
I was going to say railroads.
I knew where you were going to go. But he didn't say no railroads, but that would be, something that they would look at. And multi-phase projects will be separate project submittals. They want you to, so for Knowles, 3 phases, 3 separate project submittals. The requirements for the submittal is a little bit more involved than it was back in 2006. It's requiring a letter of request from the mayor that that city with the projects, a council resolution supporting the projects. So we want to get direction from y'all tonight to move forward with applying for those projects. So it'll come to you the first council meeting in April to approve the funding to submit. Project costs for each project and the funding source it's coming from. An executive summary needs to be included talking about the project scope and how it aligns with the program goals is what's going to score high. And then the schedule showing it'll be done within 5 years. A concept plan, and then referencing like a master thoroughfare plan or whatever document, which we have in Saginaw, which is nice. So, any questions on the call for projects, like just the general? Okay, done. All right, and then discretionary funds and the countywide initiatives, is going to touch on those couple buckets that are other funding sources from this bond election. Each commissioner is going to get $15 million to spend at their discretion. It will have to be approved at Commissioner's Court, but they'll have those dollar amounts. I believe the bridge project was funded through JD's discretionary fund, so just something. So keep talking to Commissioner Johnson. If there's certain projects, you may be able to get some of the discretionary fund money. Allocation for, basically they're allowed to spend it on anything transportation related. And there's no match required. That's what's nice about it. Like, so if there's a project that they're really passionate about, they may be able to fund it in its entirety and no match is required. And then the countywide initiatives, partnerships bucket is reserved for strategic projects, and it's aimed more for the regional or multi-jurisdictional projects, like if TxDOT involved or city to city, like if it's an improvement that would be across 2 different cities, it's the regional. And they also mentioned like grant opportunities, like the Build grant was one that Hazlitt won last year, like that was a big dollar amount that they would be able to help leverage those Tarrant County funds to help be positioned for some kind of federal Build grant like that. And that's one they're going to be talking to COG and TxDOT about different projects that are priorities there to figure out they can do some partnerships. And we have one we'll talk about that maybe Fort Worth and Saginaw could have a partnership in Tarrant County. And then the matching funds question is not determined yet. That would be determined by the Commissioner's Court. So there's no like 50% or 25%. They don't know yet. So, but that's another way of getting projects funded that's not competing through the call for projects. It's just discussing with the commissioners. So the schedule, the applications are due April 16th. They are establishing a project evaluation committee this month. Each commissioner will appoint 3 committee members, and that will make up they will evaluate all the submittals that come in through April and rank them. In Tarrant County, we'll be coordinating with TxDOT and COG for some regional projects, getting input on those 2 in March and April, getting their input. The evaluation and prioritization through the committee is going to be done through the summer, and Commissioners' Court approval estimated to be done by September. And then they'll have the bond election, and hopefully it passes in November. So getting into the projects that we discussed with staff about submitting for the call for projects, the $200 million one that would be the 50% match. We discussed quite a few projects, but we landed on the 5 that have been talked about for the city bond election, which it pairs great timing, right? So it's not every city's in this position to be able to have projects planned out and be able to take advantage of this. So we talked about doing the Knowles in 3 different submittals, because each phase, and McElroy in the 2 submittals, it's shown there on the screen. Some highlights of these, both projects align well with the program goals of improved mobility, improved connectivity, improved safety, like on Knowles, the drainage, the low water crossing on McElroy, and the drainage issues. So I think it'll score really high. We don't need any right-of-way on Knowles, and there's no TxDOT or railroad coordination with those to delay the projects. And then McElroy, the same thing. There's a little bit of right-of-way needed, but overall, the corridor doesn't need a lot of right-of-way. So we feel like those projects have a good chance at scoring high. And that's something that since you have to have a funding commitment, it was hard to do too many projects, and then the city's got to show that they can commit to funding a lot of projects, in the 5-year window. So any feedback on those projects?
Now, do we get extra points for having design completed or substantially
Well,
complete?
that'll help with being shovel-ready, yeah. So that was one thing I failed to mention. Like, the match is from November on. So if any money you spent to date won't be recoverable,
Right.
but any money going forward from November on would be a 50% match. But yes, since you're ready to start construction, we could start construction, before the bond election even approved, then yeah, that would score high, because that's what they're looking for, is projects turning over, is my understanding from my discussions with Tarrant County. A couple other projects we talked about as a group, but we considered, but we didn't, wanted to get y'all's input and this discussion on it as far as submitting for the call for projects, was Old Decatur North was the other project from Bailey Boswell to the north to the city limits that we've got design done, but we thought since there were so many developer agreements related to that and the square, it might get a little bit messy, so we decided against that one for now. Wegley-Robertson was another discussion. It's the portion of Wegley-Robertson that comes to Bailey Boswell is within Saginaw, but then it goes to Tarrant County and Fort Worth. The whole corridor is in need of improvement, so I believe we're setting up a meeting with J.D. Johnson, or Commissioner Johnson here soon, and put that on his radar. Maybe that could be one of those county-wide initiative projects. And then McElroy, we talked about the Western Center connection east through Miss White's property there. But since there's a developer agreement and tours underway, we just didn't want to complicate things there. And then the other one that was on the wish list was improving Industrial Boulevard because it's in such bad shape. But there is. Yeah. So, any input for those projects? We're going to move forward with the 5 projects that are planned that I showed previously and get y'all's input. Anything else? Gabe, you wanted to add on that? No? Okay.
Questions for Dana? Cindy?
Excuse me, when will we know if the applications have been approved and?
It sounds like they're going to, I don't know if you'll know until November. I don't know when they'll notify. They're going to make their commissioners, they're going to approve the projects at Commissioners Court, like probably September, October. So I'll be watching. I'm sure Dolph will be in contact with Tarrant County on it too. So we may preliminarily know where we rank, but you won't know until the votes, the November elections passed and move forward that way.
Well, that's sooner than I thought. I thought maybe it'd be like March or something next year.
Any other questions?
Other questions?
Just have a couple.
Okay.
So proof of funding, is that going to be required at time of application?
Yes.
We would not have proof of funding.
Well, as long as it shows you can fund it within the year, I think it's just more of like, it's based on because you can show what year you're going to start construction. So I don't think you have proof of funding. You just need to show the funding source, which you could show
would be coming from a pending bond election. So if, for example, if that particular bond measure fails, then we would not be able to fund the projects, not even 50% of the projects. So I think just being careful about how we're presenting that in April before the bond election.
Yeah, something we could probably talk to Tarrant County about, Dolph, on that, or you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, if our funding source is not available when they come ranking these projects, obviously they're not going to rank very high. So,
and I don't see why we couldn't say that we
absolutely will say what our intent is to
Yeah.
fund these, but
Sure.
Yeah, you're right.
We
won't know until our bond election has been held.
Yeah, other cities are in the same boat. I think Fort Worth election's in May of 2022. So actually, so they're submitting now.
Yeah.
And they're a little bit further out than y'all are. So
I think if we knew in September, let's say that bond measure passes, and we knew in September that 1 or 2 or 3 or all of our projects would be funded, that would surely incentivize us to get out the vote for the November Tarrant County measure.
Really good point.
That's a 2 for 1 is what we would be getting. So I hope we know before November. At least we get some indication.
I can't promise that. But
No, I get it. My only concern was when you mentioned we had we had to have some proof of funding just before.
It's not super specific on what's needed, but I think,
Okay.
yeah, so.
Okay.
And there's,
I'm sure
there's no
Dolph
limit.
can figure that out.
There's no limit for what we can apply for. I mean, we're doing 5, we could do 6, it doesn't specify, right?
Correct. You could do as many as you want. The only thing specified is a 10-page limit per submittal.
Okay.
Was our industrial, was that shovel ready? Or do we
No,
have-
it's not. That's why we decided, I mean, it's going to need right away. There is a railroad crossing.
So on that other list, are there others that do not have those, other than the fact they're not shovel-ready? And the reason I'm asking about these is we might be able to say we can reserve funding in a fiscal year for these projects. They're not really dependent upon a bond measure passing, right? So, I mean, we could at least get those in there. Maybe they'll rank. I don't know if it might affect the ranking.
Well,
if
we
we're
would
waiting
have-
on a bond.
We would have our own bond, excuse me, our own bond funds available if we have a match from the county. That's going to free up bonds for other projects. So that's where you start looking at things like that.
So are you asking to submit or suggesting to submit more than the 5?
I'm just thinking, that Wagley Robertson, I know that we didn't really approach that because of what we're doing with that developer in that area.
But I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think
No.
majority of Wagley Robertson's not in City of Saginaw, so I think that's why we had a lot of discussion about that. I was talking to Commissioner Johnson. It actually goes through 2 precincts of Tarrant County.
Oh, yeah.
The northern part connecting to Bonds Ranch is Fort Worth, and then we have just a small little segment. So I think we're going to talk to Commissioner Johnson about that project, and hopefully that is in the $125 million that's not required the City of Saginaw to lead.
That's J.D. Johnson and Fickus, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mayor, that's correct.
Yes,
What
sir.
Dana mentioned, that is, we've had preliminary discussions with the commissioner, and if it's not match eligible, then it's certainly, given the growth and other things, the discretionary, probably for both commissioners where the precinct line changes, certainly worth consideration.
And one project that's not on there I know that the mayor is not in a position to speak to the road project because it touches his property, but the road that would ultimately connect McElroy to East Bailey Boswell.
Parallel to
and
the railroad. Yeah.
Parallel to the railroad would be a huge circulation improvement on the east side of Saginaw. And if I know it can't be shovel-ready in 18 months, but it could be shovel-ready in 24 or 36 in that 5-year horizon. If we could put together a presentation for that it could be funded out of potentially surplus bond funds if we have match in other areas. I'm just thinking that's an opportunity.
That's correct. I think,
Yeah.
I won't speak for the engineers, there's right away you've got water crossing there. There's a lot of preliminary work, but you're correct.
So, I guess that's if we're submitted to the call for projects. I think there's doing a high level. I don't know if we have enough confidence that we know the budget
the
of that
16th of
project to
April, yeah.
ask for how much we're asking the county for. I guess what I'm saying. So, we could do we already have a high level estimate that we did at the doing each year for the budget retreat, but it would probably take a little bit more background or research on that, and it's within a month we have to have it done. So,
I understand.
I agree. Maybe that's one that we still talk to this Commissioner Johnson. Maybe there's other ways and not the call for projects.
I think what's going to wind up happening to the folks who are anticipating the enjoyment of the overpass when Belt Mill develops and that intersection at Wagley Roberts becomes what it will be, they're going to be looking for opportunities to bail off that road every way they can. It will be Bailey Boswell is what it will be.
Yeah, I understand.
So
I think it's definitely something to keep in mind for the near, especially seeing what happens with what Tarrant County approves. Definitely keep it on the priority list.
All right.
So,
those are my thoughts.
anything else?
We're just doing some quick calculations. We're looking at $200 million being divided up within Tarrant County, right?
Correct.
And we've got 41 cities in Tarrant County?
Sure. Yeah, I think so. That sounds about right. I don't know.
A big number, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. If you do some real quick math, that's about $5 million per city. And I think, we're already asking for the lion's share of that money just for Saginaw for road improvements.
Yeah, but of those 41,
With
how
those-
many of them are shovel-ready? How many of them are right there on the go button?
Yeah,
Right.
some of them may not even be in position to even submit. So,
Well, I understand that, but still, we're looking at it across the board. We really are asking for the lion's share, and if we get it, that's absolutely wonderful.
I think if you get 2 projects funded, that would be unbelievable. I
No, we
think,
should be thrilled. If we
Yeah.
get a few $1 million, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything we get is fantastic, so it's just free money, so we
So
should.
I just
Yeah.
don't want to try to push our luck too far.
That's a good point.
Add too many, then yeah.
Yes.
But I don't want those
pushing it
top,
at 5.
I don't want those top 5 to get bumped for something else when those top 5 are really our priority.
Yeah, last time, I think the lowest priority one that we submitted got funded first.
Well,
so-
that was Longhorn because that's JD's shop, yeah.
You said it. Anything else?
Yeah.
All right,
Anything else?
thank y'all.
Any other questions? Thank you, Dana.
Thank you.
All right, moving forward, item number 9, lobbyist engagement agreement and update with respect to the Texas National Guard property. For that, City Attorney Bryn Meredith.
Yes, Mayor and Council, this matter involves the Texas National Guard property. I know Council has had some ongoing interest in having the property made available essentially for economic development purposes. It's currently in use by the Texas Army National Guard, I believe. Because this is a federal issue, we discussed engaging a lobbyist to lobby Congress to see if we couldn't make that change. We finally received a proposed engagement letter late yesterday. This is from the law firm of Holland and Knight. They have a Washington, D.C. office and a lobbyist group. They indicated that they normally provide lobbyist services in the form of a monthly retainer, but they thought in this case it might be preferable to just simply set the arrangement up in the form of a billable hour monthly invoice. Now, there is a proposed $10,000 upfront retainer that would be paid. Essentially, it would be an initial deposit. They estimate, number one, that the fees would likely be in the range of $15,000 or more per month, and that this could be a multi-year engagement. But they did feel that they weren't prepared to rule out the possibility that this could be successful. The total fees are dependent on the hourly rate of the person assigned to the task. The primary attorney, Mike Friedberg, provided me with some various hourly rates of some of his staff members. I told him, so those are not reflected in the engagement letter because every member of their staff charges at a different rate. But I told him I would like to know some of the fees of the individuals that would likely be working on this project. He indicated that he bills $850 an hour, that his associate, who would be the primary person handling this, bills $530 an hour, a legislative assistant that bills at $225 an hour, and then a non-lawyer senior policy advisor who bills at $785 an hour. That's all I have. Obviously, as with any lawyer engagement, there cannot be any guarantee of a particular outcome. It is an at-will arrangement, so at any time, if you all elect to discontinue the engagement, you certainly can do so, and the city would only be responsible for any outstanding unpaid fees. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, council, questions, thoughts, sticker shock, anything? Over here.
Yeah, I did
Mary, go ahead.
read all of this in
Sure.
typical attorney language, that they they covered every possible base. And, it would require a potentially large investment on our part, but when you look at what could be achieved by having access to that property and being able to develop it, I think it would be worthwhile to pursue.
Okay. Other council members? Your thoughts?
So what's the acreage of, let's just go with the square. What's the acreage of the square?
It's about 27 acres, if memory serves me right. Does that sound right?
So for 27-acre development, we have put up roughly $2 million worth of incentive. This is 40 acres of industrial development, which, quite frankly, brings jobs to Saginaw. It brings transient revenue to Saginaw, and it offsets residential taxpayer costs in Saginaw. It's probably valued at 3 or 4 times what the square would be valued at. And at $15,000 a month, that's $180,000 a year. I'm going to tell you, if we're spending $2 million to develop the square, and we're talking about spending $180,000 a year to move this football further down the field for a touchdown, I think that's wise investment.
My concern is this is to maybe move it. We don't know. There's no guarantee of results of success. It's $180,000 for year one, and as Brent said, it's potentially a multi-year engagement. And I think $15,000 a month is minimum. It's what was stated in the letter, I believe. So that's minimum $180,000 a year. It's just such a big number, and we have no guarantee of success. I don't know what the percentage of success is. Maybe we could talk to them to get a better idea of, how our fight would be if we have what kind of chance. I mean, they said they think we have a chance, but what does that mean? And does that mean they have a chance at billable hours, or we have a chance at actually being successful? So it is sticker shock. But what do we do? Have any idea potential, probably for success? I mean, are we talking less than 50%? Are we talking 10%? Is it a shot in the dark? I mean, before I commit to spend such a huge amount of money over a multi-year program, start throwing money at this, I'd like to really have a better idea of what our chances are. How we feel or how they feel, could this realistically come to pass? We have any idea of that?
I really don't, and you and Patrick may recall we were on the phone call conversation with Mr. Friedberg and his partner, and we asked them specifically to estimate the chances of probability, and this is as pointed a response as they appear to be willing to offer. I don't know if that's because they haven't spent the amount of time on it necessary to evaluate it, or whether, in fact, they won't unless they're engaged and are paid for that time. So that remains to be seen, and we can certainly have another conversation with them, but at this point I don't have anything more to offer.
Yeah, I'm hesitant to start throwing that kind of money at them before we have a little better, I don't want to say a plan. I mean, I read their letter, but, what would they do first, what would they do second, and how likely is it to come to fruition before we, spend $1 million on this and get nothing? That would be my concern. At least on the other incentives, we know we're getting something. We're getting a road. I mean, we know we're going to get that. So it's speculation. It could pay off. It absolutely could be a big win for us. I agree. It's just a lot of money to take a chance, and this is taxpayer money. So that's my big concern. Mary, please.
In reading this book that they sent us, I believe it did say in there that we could say, okay, thanks, but we don't want to do this anymore
That's
at
right.
any particular time.
That's right.
So
you
if
could
we say we did this
terminate.
$15,000 a month for 6 months or a year, and we didn't have reason to believe that it would be successful, or we felt like nothing was being done, we have the opportunity to say, okay, well, thanks, but no thanks. So I think it would be worthy to at least pursue in the beginning and give them a chance to show us. I think their first step probably would be evaluating the chances, I would imagine. And so as we go along, I think we'll have a better idea of what our chances are of getting the results we would like. And then being able to tell if, in fact, we get the bad news, we have to admit to ourselves, okay, this doesn't look like it's going to work out. We have that opportunity to then stop that contract. And I believe they have the opportunity to do the same thing for whatever reasons they would come up with. Like they might even say to themselves, this has no chance of succeeding. They might even come to that conclusion. I hope they would not. And they could say, we don't want to spend our resources any longer on this project.
And I don't know if it would come to that. I think they would have an ethical obligation to be candid with us that they see no possible positive outcome, and we would mutually terminate the engagement. But I don't think they're going to reach a point where, in spite of this moving towards a successful outcome, that they're suddenly too busy or they don't want to spend any resources on it.
Right. But I'm just saying I think it's certainly worth pursuing for a period of time, and depending on what kind of results we think we are getting, then we can keep on evaluating it.
I think we have too many projects going on right now to put money into this at this moment. I think we need to try to recoup some of the tax dollars from these other projects that we have going on first before we pursue spending this type of money on an outcome that we're not sure about.
Very fair. Other thoughts? Councilmember Bigors?
Have we had any interest in this property at all from people wanting to put businesses in here?
It's not available for sale currently.
I understand that, but I mean,
Sure.
Somebody said, hey, is the city going to acquire this? Is it possible the city could acquire this property? We would be interested in setting something up here.
Sure, that's a great question. Given its location, given it that it's rail served, desirable for a heavy industrial user, that, to Councilmember Farr's point, would bring jobs and critical mass type. So, maybe for perspective, I think the total tract is maybe 120 acres. A good portion of that is floodplain, so not usable, but the property probably could handle, for heavy industrial comparisons, of Ventura Foods times 2 or 3, another mill. You could certainly expand that, business park, that sort of thing. But no, we have not marketed it because it's not on the market.
And with that statement, I'm inclined to agree with Councilmember Beasley. We're hopefully coming out of this pandemic based on the governor's announcement today, at least trailing that direction. We're looking at a lot of high-dollar items coming up here in the future, especially, if we're trying to pay employees market rates, competitive rates. I'm just not sure I'm willing to take that chance. And I understand, Councilmember Farr's position, but I think we have to prioritize our expenditures.
Other questions, comments, council?
So I do want to make something clear that when you're doing these kinds of things, you have to think like a developer. And a developer when they approach a land opportunity, you got to look at the land opportunity as having an investment potential, not an investment guarantee. Where the developer makes their money is they're able to determine what the climate is. And I'll tell you where our climate is most beneficial for us right now is that we have Kay Granger in office. She's not going anywhere in the near future. We have Ted Cruz in office, who's not going anywhere in the near future. We have John Cornyn in office, who's not going anywhere in the near future. The lobbyists that we're talking about deal with those people. We are not going to get in front of those people with a $50 lawyer. We've got to get in front of those people. And what I suggest that we do, instead of just say, kick it down the road indefinitely, since we know what our political horizon is right now, we know who they are, that we at least get the idea in front of them, invest a little bit of what we would call in the investment business, land investment business, some sunk cost. You're just going to have to put a little bit of money out there to see what you get out of these politicians. What I'm suggesting that we do is we say, let's give the lobbyist a 6-month horizon to approach all of the individuals that I just mentioned. And if we get stiff-armed by 2 of them, 1 of them, that's going to tell us what our probability of success is. But if we don't ask the question of any one of those 3 members, our congressional member and our 2 senators in the state, if we don't ask the question of them, we'll never know. So all I'm suggesting is at least ask the question. Get some feedback from them. Put some sunk cost into this deal. There is a lot of potential in this deal. And if we don't ask the question, we are not doing ourselves any justice whatsoever here. We know the political horizon today. We might not know that political horizon in 3 years. We really won't. Let's just see what the next election cycles bring at the Senate level and at the U.S. congressional level. We have allies. I believe we have allies that are currently sitting in office that want to see cities do well in terms of their industry. They want to see jobs brought into the state of Texas. And these are big selling points for these particular politicians, okay? I think that our horizon is perfect. The timing is right. We know what the landscape is. We need to put some sunk cost into the deal. Let's put a backstop to it. Let's say in 6 months, if the lobbyist hasn't been able to engage John Cornyn, has not been able to engage Ted Cruz, has not been able to engage any significant member of Congress or the Senate to give us an idea of what they're thinking, then I think we back off. But we're not going to know until those people are engaged.
All right, thank you, Patrick. Other questions? If nothing else, I'll entertain a motion on this item.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we engage the lobbyist with a 6-month backstop until we get feedback from all 3 of both senators and the 1 member of Congress. That was a Freudian slip, wasn't it? 1 member of Congress that I have mentioned.
Okay.
I'll second.
Any second? All right, all those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed? Okay. Thank you, Brent. Thanks for the work on this. All right, moving forward, item number 10, executive session. So at 7:49, pursuant to Texas Government Code 551087, we are in executive session deliberation regarding economic development negotiations. We will return to adjourn.
says.
I
will. Thank you, sir. I understand. You what? I don't know, he had to leave. Don't know. Mr. Beasley's gone as well. Just the five of us. All right, so 8:19, we're back in regular session. I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Okay, Cindy made the motion. Valerie second. All those in favor? So at 8:20, we are adjourned. We're going to roll right into Building Board of Appeals. So at 8:20, I call to order the City of Saginaw Building Board of Appeals. This is a public hearing. So again, audience participation is the same as previously stated. You are allowed to discuss any item that is on the agenda. If I call a public hearing, you're allowed to speak. You don't have to go to the city secretary. It's an open meeting. So that's our participation. Item number 3 is approval of minutes from May 15th, 2018, was the last time we met. So any questions on those minutes? No questions. I'll entertain a motion to approve. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Do I have a second? Councilman Bighorse. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All right, motion passed. Let the record reflect, we do have a quorum. There are 5 of us. Other folks had to leave. So at 8:21, we are in a public hearing. Public hearing is for substandard building abatement proceedings regarding property located at 108 South Belmont. For that, Chief Building Official Larry Little. Hey, Larry.
How are you doing? Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. Tonight, we're here to present a hearing on the case number BBA 0321-01 for substandard buildings located at 108 South Belmont, Saginaw, Texas, Block 8, Lot 3 and 4. I'd like to bring up Ms. Lisa Newsom, our Code Enforcement Manager. She'll take you through a brief introduction here. And then after that, I'll bring up Christopher Dyer. He'll take you through the slideshow. And we'll be glad to entertain any questions or anything you may have.
Good evening.
Welcome, Lisa.
Let me move the slide here. This one? Okay. The first slide is our proof of service. We met our obligation to locate and notify responsible parties, interested persons to the public hearing. We did that by certified mail, posting at the property, publishing in the newspaper twice, and we utilized the Tarrant County Real Property Records, Tarrant Appraisal District Records, Secretary of State Records, Tarrant County Assumed Name Records, Tarrant County Tax Records, City of Saginaw Utility Records, and we also secured an ownership and lien report. Pardon me. On December 17, 2020, the building department conducted an inspection at 108 South Belmont Street. In that inspection, the team was evaluating whether there was a substandard structure utilizing Chapter 10 of the City of Saginaw Code of Ordinances and Chapters 3 through 7 of the International Property Maintenance Code. 108 South Belmont is, there were 3 buildings on the premises. Throughout this presentation, B1 will be referring to the residential structure built in 1953. I did add the zoning to this slide. It is not on your presentation. It is currently zoned commercial, and the residential use is abandoned. Building B2 is an accessory structure on the north side of the rear yard, and building B3 is an accessory structure on the south side of the rear yard. For identification purposes, this slide is a photograph of B1, the main structure on the premises, B2, the first accessory building, and B3, the second accessory building. Now Larry and Chris are going to address the actual inspection.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. So just so I understand, arrow over. All right. So on here, we are going to be looking at the property area premises. It's just the outside of the premises around the primary structure. I'm going to read this slide for y'all. The responsibility under 302 of the Property Maintenance Code is the owner of the premises shall maintain the structures and exterior property in compliance with these requirements. Except as otherwise provided in this code, a person shall not occupy as owner-occupant or permit another person to occupy premises which are not in a sanitary and safe condition and which do not comply with the requirements of this chapter. So this is the property area premises of the property itself. Right here we have sanitation, weeds, road and harborage, and the next few slides are actually going to represent those as well. So as far as sanitation reasons, weeds and rodent harborage is what we currently have right now. And then we'll, as you can see, go to the next slide here. This is just going to take care of the B1 structure. Again, the 302.1 is the responsibility section of the 2018. Just to reiterate, so the single-family structure is as follows. All of the bulletin points here are on Section 304. Everything was found in violation other than the two crossed out in red, and you'll see in previous slides to come. So we have the exterior structure in the rear. Following that is another backed up view. Structural and safety to the public health. We have that in view here. Outside, still outside the structure, exterior structure. Structurally sound conditions and public health issues. Continued. Maintenance properly being maintained. We have a structural foundation wall here. This is the structural stability of the residence. So it poses a threat to public safety. Continued there. Slide on the left-hand side shows that the overgrowth of weeds or vegetation. Slide on the right is broken windows to the exterior structure. Continued maintenance, public health and safety concerns with plumbing systems, electrical systems, and main structural components. This is one of the structural elements is itself. And then continued for maintenance up and good repair, structurally sound conditions. The following are the guidelines for the 2018 Property Maintenance Code, which we are currently adopted by, which is the requirements, general requirements. All these bulletins have been found in violation. 306 is component serviceability. They also have been in violation. Rubbish, garbage, pest elimination, or the infestation of. Chapter 4 goes into general requirements for lighting, ventilation, occupancy limitations, as well as we're going to cover ventilation of the spaces themselves. And then going from here, Chapter 5, plumbing fixtures and requirements, just the key bulletin points there in the bold systems there. Plumbing systems, water systems, sanitary drainage systems, and set forth. Chapter 6, again, mechanical electrical requirements, and that's going to be under heating, mechanical equipment, electrical equipment, and systems. And then the other one is Chapter 7, fire and safety requirements, egress, means of egress, fire protection systems, smoke alarms, etc. So the first slide on the left is the point of access, which we actually maintained because the door itself